Eleanor Hayes clutched her chest as the sharp pain ripped through her like a bolt of lightning, her vision blurring in the sterile glow of the emergency room lights. At 88, the retired nurse who had spent decades mending broken bodies and soothing shattered souls now found herself begging for help in the very place she once called home. But the young receptionist behind the desk shook her head coldly, citing overflowing beds and insurance glitches, turning Eleanor away into the biting night air with nothing but a pamphlet on home remedies. The rejection hit harder than the pain itself. Eleanor staggered out of St. Mary's Hospital, her worn shoes scraping against the pavement as rain began to fall in heavy sheets. She had driven herself here after waking up gasping for breath, her heart fluttering erratically, a symptom she recognized all too well from her nursing days. Back then, in the bustling wards of the 1960s and 70s, she had been the one barking orders, saving lives with steady hands and a voice that commanded respect. Now, reduced to a statistic in an overburdened system, she felt invisible, discarded like an old bandage. Leaning against a lamppost for support, Eleanor fought back tears. The hospital loomed behind her, a beacon of hope turned fortress of indifference. Passers-by hurried past, umbrellas shielding them from the storm and her plight. She thought of her late husband, Tom, who had passed peacefully in that same building 10 years ago, under her vigilant watch. How ironic, she mused bitterly, that the institution she had poured her life into now spat her out. But giving up wasn't in her nature. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her ancient flip phone and dialed her granddaughter, Lily, who lived across town. Lily arrived in a frenzy, her car screeching to a halt in the parking lot. At 25, she was a budding journalist, full of fire and idealism, her dark curls bouncing as she rushed to Eleanor's side. "Gran, what happened? You look awful," Lily exclaimed, wrapping her arms around the frail woman. Eleanor recounted the ordeal in hushed tones, her voice cracking with emotion. The pain in her chest had subsided slightly, but the humiliation burned deep. Lily's eyes flashed with anger. "This is outrageous. You're a hero, Gran. They can't do this." Together, they sat in Lily's car, the heater blasting warm air against the chill. Eleanor shared stories from her past to distract from the discomfort tales of midnight shifts during epidemics, holding hands of the dying, and the joy of seeing patients walk out healed. Lily listened intently, her admiration growing. She had always known her grandmother was tough, but hearing the details now, in this vulnerable moment, humanized Eleanor in a profound way. "We need to fight this," Lily declared. "I'll call the media if I have to." As the hours ticked by, Eleanor's condition stabilized enough for her to insist on going home. "I've seen worse," she said with a weak smile. But deep down, doubt gnawed at her. What if this was the end? At her age, every ache could be the final one. Lily drove her to the modest bungalow where Eleanor had lived alone since Tom's death. The house was a shrine to her career, faded photos of colleagues, a stethoscope hung like a medal on the wall, and stacks of medical journals yellowed with time. Settling into her armchair, Eleanor sipped tea while Lily paced the living room, phone in hand. "I'm tweeting about this," Lily said. "People need to know." Eleanor chuckled softly. "Tweet? In my day, we wrote letters." But she appreciated the spirit. As night deepened, the pain returned in waves, milder but persistent. Lily stayed by her side, fetching blankets and pills, her worry etched on her young face. Unbeknownst to them, back at the hospital, whispers began to circulate. The receptionist, a newcomer named Sarah, felt a twinge of guilt as she clocked out. She had followed protocol strictly. Beds were indeed full, and without immediate life-threatening signs, Eleanor didn't qualify for priority. But something about the old woman's dignified plea lingered. Sarah mentioned it to a colleague, who shrugged it off. Little did they know, the ripple had started. Eleanor drifted into a fitful sleep, dreams haunted by faces from her past. She saw herself as a young nurse, fresh out of training, tending to soldiers returning from Vietnam. One in particular stood out, a young doctor, barely older than her, whom she had pulled through a botched surgery with her quick thinking. His name escaped her now, lost in the fog of years. Waking with a start, she found Lily asleep on the couch, phone still clutched in her hand. The next morning brought no relief. Eleanor's chest tightened again, and Lily insisted on trying another hospital. But Eleanor, stubborn as ever, refused. "I've got unfinished business at St. Mary's," she said cryptically. Lily raised an eyebrow but didn't press. Instead, she helped her grandmother dress and drove back to the scene of the rejection. The rain had stopped, leaving a crisp autumn air that carried the scent of wet leaves. Arriving at the hospital, they found the emergency room even busier. Patients overflowed into the waiting area, a symphony of coughs and moans. Eleanor approached the desk with renewed resolve, Lily at her elbow. The same receptionist, Sarah, looked up and paled. "Ma'am, I'm sorry," but before she could finish, Eleanor's pain surged, and she collapsed to the floor, gasping. Chaos erupted. Nurses rushed forward, shouting for a gurney. Lily screamed, "Help her! She's a retired nurse. She worked here for 40 years. In the frenzy, Eleanor was wheeled into a treatment room, monitors beeping wildly. Doctors swarmed, administering oxygen and IVs. As her vision cleared momentarily, Eleanor locked eyes with the lead physician, Dr. Harlan Reeves. He was in his 70s, silver-haired and authoritative, but his face softened in recognition. "Ellie?" "Eleanor Hayes," he murmured, disbelief washing over him. It was the young doctor from her dreams, the one she had saved decades ago. Harlan had risen through the ranks, becoming chief of staff at St. Mary's. He had never forgotten the nurse who stayed by his side during his near-fatal appendectomy complication in 1972, advocating fiercely when others gave up. Tears welled in Harlan's eyes as he barked orders. "Clear a bed. This woman saved my life once. We're not losing her now." The staff, stunned, moved with urgency. Eleanor's heart rhythm stabilized under their care, the arrhythmia caught just in time. As she lay there, the weight of the past crashed over her like a wave, mixing relief with profound gratitude. Word spread through the hospital like wildfire. Nurses whispered about the legendary Eleanor Hayes, the one who had mentored so many in her heyday. Sarah, the receptionist, overheard and felt a pang of remorse. She approached Lily in the waiting room. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry." Lily, exhausted but forgiving, nodded. "It's the system that's broken, not just you." As Eleanor recovered in her room, Harlan visited, pulling up a chair. "You haven't changed a bit, Ellie. Still fighting." They reminisced, laughter mingling with tears. He confessed how her intervention had inspired his career, leading him to advocate for better patient care policies. Ironic, given the current overload. "Things have changed," he admitted. "Bureaucracy over humanity." In that conversation, Eleanor found closure. She wasn't just a patient. She was a reminder of the hospital's soul. Lily, eavesdropping from the door, felt a surge of pride. Her grandmother's story wasn't just personal, it highlighted the neglect of elders in a youth-obsessed world. But the shock was yet to come. As evening fell, a nurse burst in with news. A viral tweet from Lily had exploded online, detailing Eleanor's refusal and her heroic past. Media outlets picked it up, and protesters gathered outside, demanding reforms. The hospital board called an emergency meeting, shaken to their core. Eleanor, propped up in bed, watched the news with wide eyes. At 88, she had unwittingly become a catalyst for change. The pain in her chest was gone, replaced by a warmth of purpose. Harlan promised investigations and policy shifts. "You shocked us all, Ellie. In the best way." Yet, as the night wore on, Eleanor sensed more layers to unfold. A knock at the door revealed an unexpected visitor, a former patient she had nursed back to health 50 years ago, now a wealthy philanthropist, drawn by the news. His arrival promised not just gratitude, but tangible help for the hospital's woes. The philanthropist, Marcus Langford, stood in the doorway, his tailored suit contrasting the hospital's fluorescent hum. At 75, he was robust, with a mane of white hair and eyes that sparkled with memory. "Mrs. Hayes? It's me, little Marky from Ward 3. Eleanor's mind raced back to 1965, a scared boy with polio, whom she had encouraged through grueling therapy sessions, reading him stories to ease the pain. He had walked out on his own feet because of her persistence. Marcus entered, flowers in hand, his voice thick with emotion. "I saw the news. You saved me when no one else believed I could recover. Now, let me return the favor." He revealed his foundation, dedicated to healthcare equity, and pledged $1 million donation to St. Mary's for elder care expansions. The room filled with awe. Harlan, still present, shook his hand vigorously. This twist, an old patient's unexpected return, amplified the human connections weaving through Eleanor's life. Lily captured the moment on her phone, the journalist instincts kicking in. "This is incredible, Gran. Your story is touching lives." Eleanor, humbled, squeezed Marcus's hand. "We all need each other, don't we?" The conversation turned to broader issues. How society forgets its elders, the unsung heroes who built the foundations we stand on. Marcus shared his own struggles post-recovery, crediting Eleanor's compassion for his success. As the evening progressed, more visitors trickled in, former colleagues, inspired by the media buzz. One was Rita, a retired nurse who had trained under Eleanor. Frail herself at 82, Rita wheeled in, her oxygen tank trailing. "Ellie, you taught me everything. Hearing about this, it breaks my heart." They hugged, tears flowing, reminiscing about night shifts and shared triumphs. Rita's presence added a layer of camaraderie, emphasizing the sisterhood in nursing that transcended time. The hospital buzzed with energy. Staff members, from janitors to surgeons, stopped by to pay respects. Sarah, the receptionist, returned with a handwritten apology. "I judged too quickly. You're an inspiration." Eleanor forgave her instantly, seeing the young woman's sincerity. "Learn from this, dear. Always see the person, not the paperwork." Harlan, witnessing the outpouring, felt a shift within himself. He had become jaded over the years, buried in administration. Eleanor's ordeal reignited his passion. He announced to the gathering crowd in the hallway, "Starting tomorrow, we're implementing a veteran staff priority protocol. No one who gave their life to this place will ever be turned away again." The night deepened, but sleep eluded Eleanor. She reflected on her journey from a wide-eyed girl in nursing school to this pivotal moment. The pain that brought her here was a blessing in disguise, exposing cracks in the system and mending old bonds. Lily stayed overnight, curled in a chair, her face peaceful in slumber. Dawn broke with more surprises. A local news crew arrived, interviewing Eleanor from her bed. She spoke eloquently, her voice steady despite fatigue. "At my age, you learn that kindness is the greatest medicine. We've forgotten that in our rush." Her words resonated, going viral anew. Donations poured in, not just from Marcus, but everyday people moved by her story. Mid-morning, a twist emerged when Dr. Reeves uncovered old records. Digging through archives prompted by Marcus's visit, he found that Eleanor had anonymously funded scholarships for underprivileged nursing students decades ago, using her savings after Tom's death. "You never told anyone," Harlan marveled. Eleanor shrugged. "It wasn't for praise. It was for the future." This revelation humanized her further, showing her quiet philanthropy. Rita, hearing it, beamed. "That's our Ellie, always giving." The group shared lunch in the room, laughter echoing as stories flowed. Marcus promised to match the scholarships, ensuring Eleanor's legacy endured. As afternoon waned, Eleanor's vital signs improved dramatically. The doctors attributed it to timely intervention and perhaps the emotional uplift. She felt a renewed vigor, as if the connections rekindled had healed her soul. Lily, typing furiously on her laptop, drafted an article titled, "The Nurse Who Shocked a Hospital Back to Life." But beneath the celebration, Eleanor sensed underlying tensions. The hospital's CEO, pressured by the board, visited reluctantly. A stern man in his 50s, he offered platitudes but avoided committing to deep reforms. "We're grateful, Mrs. Hayes, but budgets are tight." Marcus challenged him directly. "Then accept my donation with strings attached. Focus on elder care." The CEO squirmed, the room thick with anticipation. Eleanor intervened softly. "It's not about money alone. It's about remembering why we do this work." Her words cut through, shaming the CEO into agreement. He left, promising changes, though skepticism lingered. Evening brought quiet reflection. Eleanor and Lily walked the hospital gardens, the air crisp with fall scents. "Gran, you've started a movement," Lily said. Eleanor smiled. "No, child. I've just reminded people of their hearts." Back in her room, as visitors departed, Eleanor confided in Harlan. "I almost gave up last night." He nodded. "But you didn't. That's the fighter I remember." Their bond, forged in crisis long ago, felt unbreakable now. The day ended with Eleanor drifting to sleep, dreams filled with hope rather than hauntings. The hospital, once a place of rejection, had transformed into a hub of humanity. Yet, she knew the real work was just beginning, sustaining the change, ensuring no elder felt forgotten. The following morning, Eleanor woke to sunlight streaming through the window, her chest free of pain for the first time in days. Nurses bustled in with breakfast, their attitudes shifted, smiles warmer, touches gentler. Word of her story had permeated every corner of St. Mary's, turning her into an unofficial mascot of resilience. Harlan stopped by early, coffee in hand. "You're trending nationally, Ellie. The governor even mentioned you in a speech about healthcare reform." Eleanor laughed lightly. All this fuss over an old lady's bad day. But inwardly, she felt a profound sense of purpose. Her ordeal highlighted the plight of countless seniors navigating a system that prioritized profit over people. She vowed to use this platform wisely. Lily arrived with fresh clothes and newspapers, her eyes sparkling. "Gran, look at this front page." The headline mirrored the viral tweet. "Retired nurses' rejection sparks outrage and change." Eleanor read the article, tears welling as it detailed her career's highlights, unearthed by diligent reporters. "They make me sound like a saint," she murmured. As the day unfolded, more twists surfaced. A surprise call came from the White House senior advisor on aging issues, wanted to discuss her experience for policy input. Stunned, Eleanor spoke candidly about the invisibility of elders, the burnout of healthcare workers, and the need for compassion training. "We've lost the human touch," she emphasized. The call left her energized, a far cry from the despair of 2 nights ago. Midday brought an unexpected visitor, Sarah's grandmother, a spry 90-year-old named Dolores. Sarah had shared the story at home, and Dolores insisted on coming. "Young lady," Dolores said to Eleanor, "you remind me of myself. I was a midwife in the old days." They bonded instantly, swapping tales of birthing babies in rural homes and fighting for women's health rights. Dolores's presence added a generational depth, reinforcing the theme of enduring female strength in medicine. The afternoon saw a hospital-wide assembly in the auditorium, organized by Harlan. Eleanor, wheeled in as guest of honor, addressed the staff. Her voice, though soft, carried weight. "I didn't come here for pity. I came for care, like any of you would. Remember, every patient has a story. Listen to it." Applause thundered, many wiping tears. The CEO, present under duress, announced immediate changes, expanded protocols for seniors, and a memorial plaque for veteran nurses. Marcus returned with lawyers, formalizing his donation. He revealed another layer. His foundation would fund a Eleanor Hayes wing for geriatric care. Overwhelmed, Eleanor protested. "That's too much." Marcus grinned. "Not enough, after what you did for me." This personal honor touched her deeply, symbolizing how one act of kindness ripples across lifetimes. As evening approached, Lily took Eleanor for a drive, escaping the hospital's confines. They stopped at a park, watching children play. "Gran, what now?" Lily asked. Eleanor pondered. "I want to volunteer, teach young nurses about empathy." Lily beamed. "I'll help you set it up." Back at St. Mary's, Rita organized a small gathering of retired nurses. They shared potluck dinner in Eleanor's room, laughter filling the air. A woman named Clara, confessed, "Your story made me reach out to my estranged daughter." "Thank you." The emotional twist, Eleanor's influence mending family ties, underscored the broader human impact. Night fell with Eleanor reflecting on the whirlwind. The shock to the hospital wasn't just her survival or past heroics. It was the awakening of collective conscience. She had exposed vulnerabilities, but also ignited hope. The next day brought discharge papers. Eleanor left not as a victim, but a victor, arm in arm with Lily. Harlan escorted them out, promising weekly check-ins. "Your family now," he said. At home, Eleanor settled in, surrounded by cards and flowers from well-wishers. Marcus visited, discussing the wing's plans. "We'll include a library of nursing histories," he suggested. Eleanor nodded, adding ideas from her experiences. Weeks blurred into a routine of advocacy. Eleanor spoke at conferences, her story inspiring bills for elder protections. Lily's article won awards, cementing their bond. One evening, Sarah dropped by with homemade cookies. "You've changed me," she admitted. Eleanor hugged her. "We've changed each other." A final twist arrived via mail. A letter from a long-lost relative, a great-niece inspired by the news to reconnect. Their meeting added family warmth to Eleanor's life. As winter set in, Eleanor stood at her window, watching snow fall. At 88, she had faced rejection and emerged stronger, proving age is no barrier to impact. The hospital, forever altered, stood as testament to one woman's unyielding spirit. But the story didn't end with quiet reflection. Months later, the Eleanor Hayes wing opened with fanfare ribbons cut, speeches given, and Eleanor at the center, cutting the tape with steady hands. Harlan, now her close friend, whispered, "This is your legacy." She smiled, knowing it was theirs collectively. Challenges persisted. The CEO resisted some reforms, leading to internal strife. Marcus stepped in, leveraging his influence to ensure accountability. Eleanor mediated, her wisdom bridging gaps. "Progress is messy," she told a frustrated Lily. "But worth it." Personal growth bloomed too. Eleanor started a memoir, dictated to Lily, chronicling her life's highs and lows. Writing unearthed forgotten joys, her wedding to Tom, the birth of their children, the satisfaction of healing. It also confronted pains, the losses, the discriminations faced as a woman in medicine. One spring day, a young nurse from St. Mary's visited, seeking advice. "How do you stay compassionate amid chaos?" Eleanor replied, "See yourself in every patient." The encounter echoed her own mentorship days, closing a circle. Rita and Dolores became regulars, forming a Golden Nurses Club for storytelling sessions at the wing. Laughter and tears mingled, preserving history while inspiring the new generation. Harlan retired soon after, passing the torch with Eleanor's blessing. He moved nearby, their friendship deepening into family-like ties. Dinners together became tradition, filled with debates on healthcare ethics. Lily's career soared. She authored a book on elder advocacy, dedicating it to Eleanor. "You taught me resilience," she wrote. Eleanor, reading it, felt immense pride. A poignant moment came during a routine checkup. Sarah, now promoted, handled Eleanor's care. "Full circle," Eleanor noted. Sarah agreed, "Because of you." As years ticked by, Eleanor reaching 90, the impact rippled outward. Policies changed nationwide, influenced by her testimony. She received awards, but cherished most the letters from strangers. "Your story gave me hope." One evening, surrounded by loved ones, Eleanor shared her final thoughts. "Life's twists, rejections, reunions teach us humanity's core, connection." Her words lingered, a beacon for all. In the end, the shock to the hospital wasn't fleeting. It sparked enduring change, proving one voice, amplified by courage and kindness, can heal a broken system.